Hi, so today I'm going to give you 5 hacks to fight yeast infections. So, if you're someone who is suffering from itchiness, irritation, odor, discharge, and all those things, this is the video for you. So, be sure to watch till the end. So, we're going to talk about it. Before we do, however, let me tell you a little bit about myself and my background. My name is Nicole LaShawn, and I am a nurse practitioner with a background in family medicine. And on this channel, I am helping Black women ages 40 and up to create a life that we want to live rather than the one that has been designed for us. On this channel, I share information about health and wellness, nutrition, and just general information to help us to live our best life so that we can thrive and not just survive. I enjoy sharing information about health because I believe that health is wealth. And I believe that our bodies desire to be healed, whole, and that there are things that we can do in order to help promote our bodies being in balance. So, if that is something that sounds interesting to you, please go ahead and like this video. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment below and join in the conversation. So, let's get into it. Before we talk about the hacks, let's just talk a little bit about the symptoms of a yeast infection and what causes them. So, symptoms of yeast infection for women include itchiness, irritation, discharge, redness, burning. Sometimes there's odor associated with it, and it's very, very uncomfortable for a lot of women. Sometimes yeast infections can be triggered by certain things that we are doing, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But typically, yeast infections are the result of an overgrowth of a fungus called Candida. Now, we all naturally do have Candida in our bodies. It is considered normal flora, but the problems occur when there's an overgrowth of that Candida. When that yeast has overgrown for whatever reason, then we'll start developing symptoms associated with it, symptoms that I mentioned previously. So, in incorporating certain things into our diet or into our routine or regimen on a regular basis, there are ways in which we can bring our bodies back into balance. And that is the goal of today's video, to share with you some of these, 5 specifically of these hacks that will help you to fight off yeast infections, but also to help you maintain a healthy balance so that you're hopefully not getting them recurrently. Let me stop here and just say that if you are having some problems and you're not 100% sure whether they're related to yeast infection or what's going on, make sure that you go see someone. You definitely want to ensure that you are properly diagnosed. You don't want to be treating yourself for something and it's not the right thing. But for women who have been down that road before, you've experienced a yeast infection before, then there's a good chance that you know what you're dealing with and you know the symptoms and you've been there and done that. Yeah, right? This may not be your first rodeo. And perhaps you might be exploring some alternative options to going in and having it treated. Or perhaps you're someone who's dealing with recurrences and you're searching for some natural remedies to kind of get your body back in balance. I would say that certainly if you are experiencing recurrences or increased frequency of yeast infections or other concerns of that nature, certainly make sure that you bring it up with your healthcare provider to make sure, because there are definitely certain things that can trigger recurrences. So if that's new for you and you haven't explored that further, make sure you look into that. But these are some dietary hacks that can help you. So I definitely want to ensure that you have access to these. So here are 5, and I'll start with number 1. I personally am kind of a naturalist in my heart. And so I say some natural remedies that you can begin to incorporate as a part of your regimen or routine that help to fight yeast infections are like cloves, cinnamon, oregano, turmeric, and black walnuts. I personally like to make a tea out of those, but you could certainly consume them in the way that you find easiest or most desirable. I also like to juice, so sometimes I will kind of like make it into a tea and then add that kind of tea to my juice, if that makes sense. Number two would be fermented foods. So think fermented foods such as kimchi, kefir, kombucha, sauerkraut, pickles. Those are all fermented foods and may help to fight off yeast infections. Now, I would say that not all fermented foods are created equal, so it is important to read labels. I definitely advocate for reading labels, making sure that you are aware of what you're putting into your body, especially because a lot of these fermented foods are marketing themselves as health foods, but then when you read the label, they have tons of added sugar. And you definitely, if you're someone who's working on fighting yeast infections, the last thing that you want to do is add more sugar into your diet, because that's not going to benefit you in the area of yeast infections. It's also not going to benefit your overall health, your gut health. They're all related. So make sure you read the label concerning that. Number three I have is probiotics. So probiotics, I'm sure heard about them before, but as it relates to yeast infections, the probiotic lactobacillus is very important because it can help to kind of treat yeast infections by restoring the balance back into the microbiome of that area. It helps to restore the pH, or the level of acidity that is normal to that area. So probiotics help to produce lactic acid and prevents many other microorganisms such as yeast from overgrowth. So that's why it's important. Number four, the hack is to reduce refined sugars and carbohydrates. So this is things like certainly sweets, your sugars. So your donuts, cookies, cakes, those types of things are going to trigger increase in yeast infections. So reducing those are important. But also think of things such as bread, pasta, white rice. Those also can trigger the recurrence of yeast infections because, they're carbohydrates and they will definitely feed yeast infections. Not beneficial. And number five that I have on my list is alcohol. So consuming alcohol, which is a carbohydrate, it's a sugar, it's going to increase the likelihood that you're struggling with yeast infections if you're consuming a lot of alcohol. It's again going to feed that yeast infection. It's not going to help your body on the way to healing, and it's not going to help your body restore balance. So those are the things that I have on my list today. I hope that you find them helpful. If you have more questions related to yeast infections, how to manage them, what to do when you have them, definitely leave them below. Another big thing that I notice that I get with women when I'm seeing them is triggers to yeast infections, such as tampons, pads, those types of things. For some women, those are triggering them for them. So making sure that you are looking at that. Maybe you need to change things up in that area, reducing your body's exposure to the chemicals that they put in those products can be beneficial. I know that for me, I've been looking more into menstrual cups as opposed to pads and tampons. I'm wondering, I don't know how you women are doing if you're getting into that, but back when I was growing up, that wasn't an option. So I'm definitely looking into that as a way of decreasing my body's exposure to the chemicals that are in the pads and the tampons, because those are just, a lot of women are finding that those are just not beneficial to the overall environment down there. And so I don't know, have you tried using I'll call them alternative menstrual products? I I did, and I can maybe share my experience with you all if that is something that you're interested in, because I am actually testing out a few different items, just to make sure that everything in that environment stays healthy, comfortable, whole, and healed at all times. So if that sounds interesting, if you want to hear more, let me know, and I'll share my experience with you and what I'm discovering as I'm on that journey. But that's what I have as it relates to yeast infections. I hope that you find it helpful. If so, please share it with someone who may find it beneficial. And please leave a like, comment below, and I will see you next time. Bye.